You are looking live.
Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Woo, 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 woo. Not so fast.
As I said before the break, we're going to be getting to Houston against the Power 5 over the past 5 to 6 years, and how that will, how is that going to transfer to when they join the Big 12? And as I just kind of went on a little mini rant last segment, I want to get this in for the, it's going to do me a favor when I'm editing this later. People commonly misunderstand what I'm using these statistics and these numbers for. When I say how these teams have fared against Power 5 over the past 5 years, I am not saying, wow, look, they didn't beat Texas Tech in 2017, so that means they can't beat them in 2025. That's not my point. All I'm saying is I'm showing a pattern, and I'm showing how they have fared against these Power 5 teams and top 25, and I'm saying, how will that transfer? I'm kind of putting these numbers out there, and I'm putting these things out there so that people can think about it a little bit. And like I said last segment, I think people commonly misunderstand what I'm saying. And with the BYU thing, I got a little fired up because people were saying that BYU was going to be dominant, and I was like, well, they can't even beat them when they're not playing them every year. So they're gonna, and BYU, I'm still not sold on. Cincinnati, and I'm not sold on any of these 4 teams actually. And as I said, anything that anybody, the only thing that anybody can do right now regarding these 4 teams joining the Big 12 is speculate, because nobody has specific evidence to say they will dominate. I know this for a fact, right? Nobody knows for sure. Everybody and their brother is just speculating on this, and that's just how it is right now. And people get so fired up when my speculating doesn't align with their speculating, so they jump down my throat and write expletive-ridden comments to me on YouTube. But that's that. That's kind of the kind of things you're going to run into in the world. And as I kind of said that kind of goes along with what I said a few weeks ago about John Gruden. There are going to be hateful people out there, and you just can't let it ruin. You can't let it ruin your day, and you can't let it ruin all the greatness that is out there in the rest of the world. So, I don't think for a minute that I'm going to let these clowns, who don't have a job, and these clowns who sit in their parents' basement play Call of Duty, they're not going to affect me, right? They can, they're going to talk about how I'm wasting my time, but, they took the time to write the comments. So, those kind of people make me laugh, if anything. So, Houston against the Power 5, let's get right to it. Since 2003, and again, let me put this out there for those that can't, that didn't listen the first time or the first 5 million times. When I say since 2003, I'm not saying, wow, they didn't beat, they lost to TCU in 2003, so they're going to lose to them again in 2025. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just putting the statistic out there so you can start to think about it. I'm just saying, that's just the fact. I'm not saying, well, because of that, they're going to stink. That's not my point. I'm just putting this out there because it is a fact. So do not get salty. Do not get your panties in a bunch yet. Just wait and listen to what I have to say. Since 2003, Houston is 15-27 against Power 5, which is a 35.7 win percentage. Since 2015, they're 6-5, which is a 54.5 win percentage. And what I'm about to outline here is similar to what I said about Cincinnati a few weeks ago, and that and the Houston's stretch of dominant Power 5 is, and I think they only played Texas Tech this year from Power 5, right? Let me double check on that. But what I said about Cincinnati a few weeks ago is similar to what I have to say now about Houston, in that sure they played Power 5 teams and they beat them and all that, but they haven't had a season where they play them a lot, right? I think this year actually Texas Tech is the only Power 5 team they're going to face, and they lost to them this year. Kind of run you through their week schedule, and this is what I'm talking about. When I say a week schedule, they play Rice, they play Grambling State, they play Navy, Tulsa, Tulane, East Carolina. They're going to play SMU tomorrow. SMU's top 25. We'll see how they fare in that one. South Florida, Temple, Memphis, and Connecticut. And for those of you that missed it, I'm pretty sure UConn lost to Yale in football this year. Rice and Grambling State aren't exactly known for their football program either. So when I don't see it from these teams that have this weak schedule, and then they're going to go into the Big 12 and somehow dominate. How does that? What am I missing? What exactly am I missing? Where you're playing teams that some people have never heard of before, and now all of a sudden you're going to go in and you're going to dominate teams like Baylor and Iowa State. Where's the what am I missing, right? And I that's where I'm confused, where people are getting all hyped up about it. And sure, they're 6-5 against Power 5, since 2015, and that was mainly due to 2 years where they were really good. 2015 they were 13-1, and 2016 they're 9-4. 2017 and 2018 were decent years. They 7-5 in 2017 and 8-5 in 2018. Since then, however, they have not been particularly sharp. 2019 they were 4-8, and then last year they were 3-5. Again, I do recognize the whole COVID year and everything. And Houston this year, they have one loss, and that was to Texas Tech. So they're coming in 6-1, but they haven't played anybody yet. They haven't played anybody good yet. SMU is going to be their second legit team that they're going to play, and even Texas Tech isn't like legit, but compared to who they've played, Texas Tech is one of the most legit teams they're going to play. And like I said, so their really good record against Power 5 is mainly due to the 2015 and 2016 really good seasons, where from 2015 to 2016 they went 5-0 against Power 5. But since 2016, so 2017 on, they've gone 1-5. So, I'm not really sure where, I'm not really sure what happened, but something along the line, they just kind of fell off. And, they've beaten really good teams in the past. 2015, they beat 9th-ranked Florida State in a bowl. They beat 3rd-ranked Oklahoma in 16, and they beat 5th-ranked Louisville in 16. And, for those being the only two Power 5 teams that Houston played that year, those were pretty good teams that they played, and they won. However, they just haven't been able to continue that. They haven't been able to have that same success against these teams in the past 4 years. Taking a look at their competition against top 25. Again, when I say top 25, I mean any top 25 team. Non-Power 5 and Power 5, so Cincinnati, BYU, Memphis, and all those teams are kind of included in this. And since 2003, Houston is 12-18 against top 25, and that's a 40% win percentage. Since 2015, they're 8-8, which is 50%. However, that again is mainly in part due to their very good performance from 2015 and 16. Where again, against top 25, they were 6-0 from 15 and 16. They beat Memphis, Navy, Temple, Florida State, Oklahoma, and Louisville. 3 of those were top 10 teams. Pretty impressive to me. However, from 2017 to now, they have gone 2-8. So, all 8 of their losses have come within the past 4 years, and they're going to play another top 25 team tomorrow. So we'll be able to add one more from that, and that'll be kind of more relevant to see, well, okay, are they turning the corner, yes or no? Tomorrow could be a game where we look at and say, well, they're not there yet, or no, I think they can turn this thing around. They They've lost to 2019. They lost to Oklahoma, Washington State, Cincinnati, SMU, and Memphis. And then last year they lost to BYU and Cincinnati. So, I don't know. What I'm seeing from Houston is very similar to any other team in college football, where they can have a good year here and there, but they can't sustain success for a long period of time, right? They are not going to be, for me, when I look at a team and I say, wow, they're really good in whatever conference they're in, or they are dominant, right? Of course, Alabama comes to mind. However, let's just kind of keep it within the Big 12 for a minute. Look at Baylor and look at, I guess you could kind of say Oklahoma State, right? More often than not, they are having a good year, right? Baylor has a bad year every now and then, whereas Houston has a good year every now and then. And I think, for me at least, if you're going to be a team that's going to be dominant, you have to have more good years than bad years, right? It's just kind of simple math. And I haven't seen that from these teams. And I don't know. I think that for as many times as Houston has had a good year, Baylor has had a bad year, or Oklahoma State, right? These teams that are at the top of the Big 12, and this is a theme that you can look at in other teams in other conferences, but I'm just kind of keeping it to Big 12. Teams that are dominant, or teams that have had success over the years, more often than not, they are good. They have a bad year every now and then, but they turn things around within, they don't have like 5 straight years of being bad. And I just don't see, and that's kind of a theme that we've seen from teams such as Oklahoma State, and Iowa State's been bad for a long time, but they're really turning things around right now. And Baylor as well is another example. So another thing that I don't know if I looked at this with BYU, and I think I did with Cincinnati, but I looked at how they're going to play against the future Big 12. And what I mean by that is, well, actually, I don't know. I looked at current Big 12, meaning Texas and Oklahoma is included, and then I looked at future Big 12, meaning, not Texas and Oklahoma. So against current Big 12 teams, Houston is 1-5 since 2010. Their only win coming against Oklahoma in 2016. They've lost 4 times to Texas Tech, including this year, and then they also dropped one more game to Oklahoma. So, I mean, and that this is a very small sample size for them. They have 6 games against between 2 teams, right? Oklahoma and Texas Tech. We haven't seen them play Texas, I don't think ever, actually. No, we haven't seen them play, or not ever, but since 2003, we haven't seen them play Texas. We haven't seen them play Iowa State. We haven't seen them play, I know we have seen them play Oklahoma State, but that was, 13 years ago. So the relevance from that isn't really, not really, doesn't really resonate right now. And that's the other thing that I think people really misunderstand is, I say that. Oh wow! I just banged my elbow on the board. That's nice. What people really misunderstand also is that, they'll bring forth one game from 15 years ago, and then I say that's one game from 15, 20 years ago. What does it have to do with today? And then they say, well, why are you talking about the record since 2003? And the reason for that is 18 years worth of games that I'm bringing forth to you. That is, again, so just for entertainment purposes here, since 2003, Houston has played 42 games against Power 5. And you can pick and choose which one, and sure, maybe none of those really has anything to do with today. And that's why I also gave you since 2015. That's why I'm giving you that. Again, I'm not using since 2000, I'm not using 18 years worth of games to just blanketly, say, that's it. Because they didn't, because they couldn't beat them 20 years ago, that means they can't do it now. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving you the facts. I'm just giving you the statistics to kind of make you think about things a little bit. Maybe you didn't know that, right? Now you know things that maybe you didn't know 10 minutes ago. And, people kind of say, well, if one game from 20 years ago doesn't mean anything, what does another one from 17 mean? And like what I'm saying is, one game from 20 years ago versus 42 games over 20 years. Again, one game, and as I just said, sure, one game from 20 years ago doesn't mean much right now. It doesn't mean anything for me, really, other than, wow, that was such a great win for us 20 years ago, right? Hang that in the record book or whatever. But again, I'm just giving you these numbers to make you think about things a little bit. I'm not giving you these numbers saying, well, that's it, So I think that's another thing. People commonly misunderstand a lot of things, and maybe they don't really misunderstand it. I think they just hear two things and they say, oh, man, wow, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to go berate him in the comments because I didn't listen to the whole thing. Against future Big 12 teams, Texas Tech is the only team that they've played, and this is where I'm kind of like unsure about Houston because, I said, well, they haven't been particularly sharp over the past 4 years against Power 5. And then I take a look at, okay, well, which teams from the Big 12 have they played? They've really only played Oklahoma and Texas Tech over the past 6 years, and Oklahoma's going to be gone by the time Houston joins, or maybe they'll play one or two times. But and so that's kind of my thing on this is the sample size is not really big enough for me to come out and say whether they're going to be awesome or not. However, I don't know, and that's the thing. I don't know how you can come out and look at such a small sample size against Big 12 teams and say they're gonna kick butt. I don't know how you look at such a small sample size and say they're gonna kick butt. That's really interesting to me how people can draw such a big conclusion from such little data. That is really interesting to me. And again, like I said, we haven't seen Houston play TCU since 2007. We haven't seen them play Oklahoma State since 2009. We haven't seen them play Iowa State, Kansas State. The last time they played Kansas was 2005. And when I say we haven't seen them play them, I mean since 2003. So in the last 18 years, we haven't seen them play Iowa State. We haven't seen them play, all those other teams that I mentioned. Baylor is another one. So, they could come out and they could, somehow beat those teams that they haven't played in 18 years. I don't know. There's a lot of unknown about this right now, and I think that's what is so interesting about this whole thing is that with so much unknown about it, you can really take whatever narrative you want. You can look at this so many different ways and say, well, because of that, they're going to be good, or no, because of that, I'm not so sure, or because of that, they're going to be garbage. I think it's really interesting how with the small sample size we have, that's the reason that there's so many different angles you can take on this. And I'm not an unreasonable guy. I'm open to seeing other people's viewpoints. But when you have words that I can't say on the air every other word, I don't know if I can really take your comment seriously or respect your opinion when all you want to do is show me how many bad words you know. And since 2005 here, so the last time they played BYU was 2013. They lose by a point, right? Whatever. Again, as I mentioned, they lost to them in 2020, and they also lost to them in 2014. So, BYU, they haven't won a game in 18 years. They're 2-4 against Cincy, and they're 3-7 against UCF. And most of those games against UCF came between 2005 and 2010. So you might be able to really throw those out the window. And that's the other thing about Houston that I kind of found kind of weak is that, we're going to sit here and we're going to say they're going to do this because they've played strong teams in the American Conference. Where's Cincinnati on their schedule? They don't play Cincinnati this year. They don't play UCF this year. Right? They play SMU. The strongest opponents that Houston plays this year is SMU, Memphis, and Texas Tech. That's it. And that's my point, really, on these teams. And that's a common theme across the board for these four teams, that their strength of schedule is very, very weak. And that is because they are in a weak conference. And if you can't, again, and you can take this so many different ways, but for me at least, I don't know how you go from playing a weak conference to just like that by the snap of a finger, you're all of a sudden in a Power 5 conference. I don't know how you just all of a sudden dominate. That's really interesting to me, how people expect them to just all of a sudden out of nowhere just, pick up where Oklahoma and Texas left off. That's really interesting to me.